This week, we're reading The Winner's Crime by Marie Rutkowski, otherwise known as Urban Decay Eyeshadow Palette.
Hi readers, I'm Jordan.
And I'm Katie.
And welcome to Not Another Heroine Season 2, the podcast where we break down the best and worst fictional heroines of any genre. Because that's what we do now.
Want to see what's next on our TBR list? Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Instagram for a sneak peek at upcoming content or to help us pick our next book. Pink Pony Club. It's just on repeat. Yeah, readers, if you have not listened to Pink Pony Club by Chappelle Rowan, I'm just going to go ahead and ruin your life. Just go ahead and listen to it.
Just do it. It's fine.
Anyway,
we're here for The Winner's Crime.
Book 2.
I know you've been waiting for it.
Yes. This one is, because the first one was emotionally spicy. This one is
emotionally damaging.
Yeah. This is like 5 emotionally damaging little spice bundles because you get put through the ringer. Your soul hurts a little bit.
And you see why, like you understand each character's reactions and motivations, the whole, like at every single point.
Mm-hmm.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah. And it's one of those you just want to like smack each other. It's like, God, stop, just talk to each other.
But if you're here for like the martyr moments, that's all this book is.
Oh,
book
but
2 is just...
It's so tasty.
And miscommunication done so well. Like, intentionally so.
Yeah, it's like intentional miscommunication where they're trying to like bluff each other out. But they're just so good at... I think that's the crux of it, is Kestrel is just so good at bluffing and playing these mind games that she's unhappy. If she was less good at it.
I love the name of the first book, The Winner's Curse,
Mm-hmm.
but this should have been called the Bite and Sting trilogy because that is the theme throughout.
Mm-hmm. Wow, yeah. Okay, Jordan.
Oh,
That is very astute. Yeah. Because it is, yeah. Wow.
That's how it starts. It's how it ends. It's how like certain decision points are made throughout the story.
I need to let that percolate for a second. I'm like a little like... Like when you like bop a shark on the nose and they like, that's how I feel right now.
You said bop and my brain immediately went to bop it.
Pop it.
Have you
slap it? Pull it.
You have? That could be taken a whole other way.
Oh God. Bloody, slutty, and pathetic again. This book opens and you're immediately pressed. Because like I was reading it and you can feel Kestrel's nervousness talking to the Emperor and him being like, so, why the fuck are you putting off this wedding? One might, think it has something to do with your heron lover who is suffering on the peninsula, but, I think better of you, Kestrel. Like, why are you waiting? And she's like,
I think a summer is a better time to have a wedding, and don't you think we should wait? And Kestrel, the entire course of book 2, you feel the feeling you have when you're being followed, but you can't see anyone following you, or you're being chased and like almost someone's chasing you and you're just on the brink of getting captured and you just almost get away. That is what it feels like reading this whole book.
Yeah. Or like the sensation where you can't decide if you're going to leave or not. And you're like that anxious, like, oh, I should just like jump down. It's like, oh, let me wait a little bit longer. Oh, it's like closing in. Like I'm losing my time frame. It's like, oh, but you got to go right now. A box getting tighter. The stress is palpable. Like
I am getting more stressed just thinking about reading this book again.
Yeah. It is traumatizing.
But yeah, the Emperor is pressing Kestrel for a wedding date.
Mm-hmm.
And she is very reluctant to commit, obviously. But
her heart is torn.
It's not because she isn't committed to getting married, because you never get the impression that she's not going to follow through. Yeah. It's just that, she's met the son, and the son's kind of like...
soft boy.
Yes, it's a much more delicate way of putting it than I would have said it.
Yeah, he's just not very competent, not very anything.
And Kestrel thinks he's kind of dumb. Everyone thinks he's kind of dumb. Mm-hmm. That's not entirely accurate, but we don't see that until much later. And so she is kind of sparring with the Emperor, and they eventually agree to, I think they do agree to like a late spring wedding.
I think it's like the summer equinox or something, because she gives these like somewhat reasonable reasons to keep putting it off and off and off.
Like she wants her father there, and it needs to be a good season so people can travel, because all of the governors of all of the colonies need to come to the capital to celebrate her wedding, including Aaron.
Yep.
So the first real marker of this, like, first event is the engagement celebration, I think.
Oh, yeah, the, like, ball or whatever.
Yes. So everyone, every senator, every governor, all of the important people are all expected to attend. And she hopes Aaron attends, but she also hopes he doesn't, kind of thing, because Aaron isn't doing so well.
Yeah. They're being, like, starved out by taxes, right?
Yeah, like, overtaxed. Like, they just don't have enough food for themselves, much less to send back to the emperor.
Yeah. I think that kind of illustrates how the emperor functions, where it's like, oh, yeah, you got everything you wanted. And then all of a sudden you're like starting to starve and the taxes are crazy. He's like, nobody gets one over on me. And then that kind of like continues as you see Heron just deteriorate.
Exactly. And then there is the minister of agriculture from Heron.
Yeah.
Who is
Tenzin.
And he is in the capital, and he's kind of like the Heron emissary.
Oh, God, because the scene when, so Kestrel's like, distracting herself, the ball keeps getting closer and closer, and she's getting like a dress fitting or something. And then the tailor kind of mentions that the emissary from Heron is there. And Kestrel in her head is like, oh my God, Aaron's here. Like, that's who was invited. He has to show up. He'd be stupid not to. And she like yeets herself out of the tailor room. She doesn't even have shoes on. And she like runs into the entry hall. And then it's Tenzin. And she's like,
You're an old dude.
Aaron.
No, not at all. This old dude who's like, I am in charge of all the farms.
But you just feel her heartbreak in the moment of like, I wanted it to be him, but I'm also glad it's not. But like also,
well, and her dressmaker, her tailor, Delilah.
Oh, yeah.
Is this very interesting secondary character who kind of feels sympathy for Kestrel and is dropping these little hints and kind of sees more than she should and understands, I think, a bit more than even Kestrel realizes ever. It's so good. But the emperor has a very strong message to send to Kestrel right before her engagement ceremony, because he knows. Like, he knows there's shadiness going on with how she escaped. And there's two distinct scenes. The coin scene.
Oh, yeah. The coin of Jadis.
And then the interrogation scene.
That one's like emotionally taxing.
The coin scene is unnerving.
Yeah.
So they tell a story. The emperor tells Kestrel a story that, remember this folk tale about this Valorian woman who was captured by the enemy and made like one of his harem, and she is a slave harem girl for years, but eventually she becomes so close and she falls in love with him, and he falls in love with her, and she becomes this conqueror, this capturer's favorite concubine, until one night he has let, like, this dude, barbarian guy, has let down all of his guards. He's like dismissed everyone, and it's been years. She's been lying in wait, and she fucking murders him, like stabs him
with knitting needles.
Because she offers to make him like a cloak or something like that.
God damn.
Holy fuck.
And then the emperor got it printed on coins
to represent Kestrel and to show that while Kestrel may have fostered a relationship with a Harani man,
some indiscretions,
it was all to serve the empire, and that eventually she will stab him with her knitting needles and everything will be kosher.
How fucking raw.
But also how brilliant. Like,
yeah. And this is just a secondary throwaway scene.
I kind of want the emperor to, like, I know how everything progresses, but I kind of want the emperor to have his own story.
I know, honestly. Especially that features his friendship with Daddy Trajan.
Yeah.
Because they're like friends, but like Daddy Trajan knows that the emperor is like cold-blooded.
But to be an emperor of so many different nations and colonies, you have to be ruthless and cold-blooded and extremely intelligent. Like, you can't be successful any other way.
And I think that kind of shows why he's disappointed in Kestrel, because he sees himself in her, but he's like, you have too soft of a heart. Like, girl, get it together.
Yeah. So Kestrel's a little unnerved by the coin thing, but she's like, that's nice. Thanks for the coin, sir.
Yeah, and then we get the torture scene.
Yeah, you can talk about that.
Yeah, because the captain of the guard shows up and he's like, Kestrel, we need to go somewhere. The emperor is directing you to come with me. And she's like, I don't like this guy. I'm going to kind of make this like a big deal. She puts on this big fancy dress. She's like, I am in someone of consequence. I'm not, plotting to do anything naughty. And he takes her to the dungeons, and she has this moment where she's like, they're gonna lock me in here. Like, I miscalculated.
It was so creepy because as she's walking deeper and deeper into the dungeons, her dress, this beautiful gown, is dragging through mud and blood and vomit.
Yeah. And she's getting like more and more unsettled. It's dark, and they come to a cell. She has a moment of like, oh my God, they're gonna lock me in here. And instead it is a heron like servant sitting in a chair. His hands are beyond fucked up. There's a pile of grossness in the corner. He's been here for a long time. And then this like torture questioning scene comes up, and he sees Kestrel, the Harani servant, and he's like, it's her. Like, this is the moment. And he tells her like, it's the year of money or something. And it's this like, get the message to Aaron, please. And it's basically just a torture scene. And then she has this kind of like wrestling with herself of like, do I stop him? But if I stop him, the Emperor's gonna know I'm, compromised. And like right at the moment that she tries to do something, the captain of the guard is like, don't. And then she passes out, and it's just horrific. And they're like flaying skin off of his fingers.
Yeah,
like,
they use like a scalpel almost to peel one layer of skin off the spy's hands.
Traumatizing.
So, fun fact.
Oh no.
If you read the acknowledgments and stuff in the back or the front of the book, I forget where it is. So we've talked before about how this author has done a lot of historical research.
Mm-hmm.
She also researched torture scene. Like she talked to someone, I forget who, we can pull it up.
Mm-hmm.
But she found out, like, she did it. This was a thing.
Ugh.
And like the medical details and how much you can torture someone and like not fall unconscious. It's creepy, but also
God.
like I wonder how many authors, because torture scenes are kind of gratuitous in fantasy romance. Like, oh, the heroine gets tortured, or she watches someone else get tortured. Like, how when these authors are they writing it?
Yeah.
If you're gonna have that kind of graphic scene and you want it to have weight, you need to do justice to it and understand what you're writing, and not just throw it in there for like, this is what I'm supposed to do, to have like an emotionally significant event in the book.
Yeah. It's not a throwaway scene.
No.
Because there's a lot of times that these like torture scenes are just like, like a way for someone to feel important. But this is
this is significant to the story because, as you said, that the slave, right, as he was like, he recognizes Kestrel, and then he says, this is the year of the god of money. And Kestrel, being educated about the Harani gods, recognizes that the god of money is also the god of spies. But come on, like that.
Yep. And especially because the servant was just, inconspicuously mopping outside of a closed-door meeting between the Senate leader and the Emperor, which kind of turns into a whole plot that Kestrel is like, something about this smells weird, but I can't put my finger on it. And this is the first, like, who's the Senate leader? What is happening?
And then we get a flash to Aaron's perspective. And he is back in Heron and trying to figure out the tax situation. And I don't know if this is before or after the scene, but it's before the Minister of Agriculture arrives in the capital. He and Aaron have a conversation, and the minister says that he hasn't heard from his spy, his source, in a long time.
And then we find out
that this happens.
Because I think he kills himself.
Yeah.
I think he like sticks his fingers into the slop bucket so he catches an infection. Like, how?
Oh God, I forgot about that. But yeah, that also, yeah.
The strength required to do that. Like, oh God. Oof.
Kestrel is damaged from this interaction. Like, she's seen a lot of shit. Like, she was nearly raped in the first book. She watched all of her friends and acquaintances get poisoned to death, and her very close friend nearly die. She almost died on her voyage escaping Heron. And then this is the scene that's like the tipping point, like where she's like, I am in over my head, maybe.
Yeah, because I think this whole book in general is her actually having to experience the consequences of being so smart and cold-blooded, and having to understand that, like, it's one thing to have these really good, tactically perfect ideas, but then to have to also understand there's consequences, because the whole Eastern savages burning thing, that is super fucked up. We'll get to that later. Jess is here, though.
Jess is in the capital. She has recovered. She's living with her family in the family's townhome. And also, Kestrel gets the opportunity to get to know Varix. Yes.
The prince.
The prince a little bit more. And I love this quote because I think they're at some sort of like dinner party gathering before her engagement thing. And Varix is like questioning her, like, why are you doing this? Like, you're just my emperor, like just my dad's like crony, I think is kind of his impression of Kestrel. And Kestrel's trying to like get in with him, I think is kind of the general vibe. But this quote, because Varix is kind of at a standoff with her and like calls her out on shit. And her response to Varix, and I forget the instigator of this is, she says, if you won't be my friend, you'll regret being my enemy. Kestrel.
Again, raw line, like Jesus. Because Varix is like jealous. Because he sees Kestrel be everything that his dad wanted him to be. And he's like, God, you're just like everyone else. And she's like, no, I'm not. I'm kind of cool. And then she comes out with this like raw dog, cold-blooded line. It's like, girl.
It's like shades of daddy. Like backhands Varix with like, all right, bud, like I tried.
Yep.
Go play with your puppies in the stables.
You'll regret being my enemy. Because, God, the cinematic value of some of these scenes, like, beautiful. And then you get a commercial break.
Who would you cast to be Kestrel? You need someone with like a super like severe, sharp, angled face.
It would be a hard cast, I feel like.
You might need to cast someone unknown.
I agree, 100%. Because you could have Aaron be like someone popular, well-known, but I think Kestrel has to be a nobody. This is just 6 episodes of us talking about how much we love Kestrel. Honestly, though. We get the scene with Varix, and then all of these are kind of like not, there's a timeline, obviously, but the timeline isn't super relevant.
They're all impactful, and we may not be approaching these scenes in the correct order, but I don't know that it's necessarily important chronologically. Like, there's significant markers in book 2, but they all kind of feed into the same bottom line.
Yeah, because she also has she goes to visit Jess or whatever, and Jess gives her this necklace engagement gift. And the scene doesn't feel important until the end of the book when you realize, like, Jess's kind of degrading mental state, just suffering through everything. Because this first scene, they're still kind of friends, but Jess is a little bit, like, she's obviously been poisoned, so she's not healthy.
She's very subdued. Isn't she? Yeah. Doesn't she move into the palace, and she's sharing Kestrel's rooms?
Yeah, but then she, like, moves out all of a sudden
after the engagement ball. Jess moves out, but she's like, they're having like a girls' slumber party. And Jess is subdued, but she's like, okay, we're friends again. I'm here.
Yeah, because I think she even makes some comment like, oh, I wish we could go home. And Kestrel's like, well, that wasn't really your home. And Jess is like,
that's the only home I've ever known.
Girl, what? Have you gone like full savage or something?
And at the same time, Jess makes these like subtle references to Ronan, her brother, who's like in fight clubs and like just a wastrel of a dude in the city. Like, he's nowhere to be found. Like, it's not the Ronan of old.
Yeah. And she also kind of makes digs like, I get you're marrying the emperor, but like, why did you say no to my brother? Like, we had the chance to be sisters and you said no.
Oh,
like,
I forgot about
bitch.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can tell Jess is going through it, but Kestrel is so like wrapped up in everything that she's got going on that she doesn't really realize how much Jess is suffering. So this is the first inkling because they kind of have like a little bit of a fight towards the end, but it's not anything crazy.
Where's Jess's story?
I know. It would be hard to read though, I think. But then we get the engagement ball.
And Aaron is still not arriving, and Kestrel doesn't think he's going to come.
And she's upset about it, but also, like, it's for the best.
She recognizes that, like, he probably shouldn't come for his own safety.
Yeah. But it's kind of cute because we get this, Varix is struggling through a game of, I think, like, Borderlands or something, which is, chess adjacent. And he's obviously just not doing well. And he looks over at Kestrel across the ballroom, and she kind of, like, makes him, like, subtle, like, no, don't do that. Oh, do that. And then all of a sudden he makes a comeback, and it's this first moment of, like, they could be allies.
I loved that scene. It was, like, kind of almost sibling-esque in their, like...
Yeah.
shared understanding of like neither one of us are comfortable in this engagement ball, but like we're helping each other.
Yeah.
And it's the first time Varix wins and like everyone's shocked.
But It's also sad though, because I think at the end of this engagement ball scene, he like comes up to her and he's like, "Oh, thank you for helping me." And she's like, "Oh, it was nothing." And Varric says, "It's like, well, it wasn't nothing to me." Kestrel is kind of cold-blooded and she's like super good at things, but this little, olive branch that she extended to Varric meant a lot more to him than it did to her. And don't destroy his soul. He's a gentle.
It's kind of those people, like we all know people like that who are just so intelligent and they're so good at things that they can't even comprehend that people would be bad at the same things.
Yeah.
Like, how can you be such a lesser human?
Yeah. And it's like they don't mean to be mean, but it's like, ew, that's a little bit mean of you. And they're like, what? Why? It's like, ew, a little bit on the spectrum, maybe.
Mhm.
But then midway through this ball, we get a little
something, something.
A little
Kestrel needs a breather.
Yeah.
She's a little overwhelmed.
Fair.
And so she goes on like a midnight stroll through a gallery.
Mm-hmm.
This is the scene when you did your pick of the week and you were describing this book. This was the scene I remembered, and I could not remember like if it was from the book, but I remember distinctly this scene that happens in the middle of the engagement ball ingrained in my memory.
That's fair. It's just so like
okay, so she's walking along.
Mm-hmm.
What happens?
She like kind of goes through a side door. She goes into like, I don't really know even how to describe this, but it's like a, secluded kind of hangout, chill area.
I pictured like have you seen like a what are they, like a bay window with a sitting area? I pictured like an outset window that you could stand in, and there's like tapestries on either side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's kind of secluded. It's like barred off. You can't really see anything. So she's in there getting some air, and she turns around because the curtain gets ripped back, and someone slides in, closes the thing, and she's like, "And it is Aaron."
And he's like grimy and like ruffled from traveling because he arrived in the capital that day.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing he does is like sneak into the palace to go find Kestrel.
Yep. And it's even better too, because Kestrel's like, nobody saw me like go off on my own, like everyone was distracted, but obviously Aaron sniped her out from across the the ball and saw that she slipped out. It's like, I saw where you went. Nobody else might have, but I did.
And then she kind of withdraws into herself and puts this mask on. And so
we have this like quote, "Kestrel, this isn't you. I don't know what you mean. This voice that you've been using, that bright one, do you think I don't recognize it? It's the sound of you laying a trap, of you hiding behind your own words. And I know that the way that you've been talking is not you. Say what you want about me, about what happened between us, about the shape of the sun and the color of the grass and any other truths in this world that you want to deny. Deny everything until the gods strike you down, but you can't say that I don't know you."
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Again, the goosebumps. Like,
I don't like Aaron, but Aaron and Kestrel together, like their interactions are gold.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Also, like, yeah, you might not like Aaron, but he has these fucking poetic lines of just like, oh.
Well, I think what this speaks to for readers is everyone wants someone who can see them and see through them.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, how often someone asks, "Are you fine? Are you okay?" And you say, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm okay." And you're clearly not. Everyone wants someone to recognize that they're lying and call them out on it, because it's so hard to admit to being vulnerable, to admit weakness. And it takes a lot of strength to admit it. And most people can't. So the easy answer, the gut-wrenching soul answer is you want someone who knows you so well that they can say, "No, you're not okay. I'm here for you." And that's what Aaron does for Kestrel.
Oh, God. And that's kind of this whole book, is him like finding these moments to like not pin her in a corner, but be like, this is not you. Like, why are you lying to me? Why are you faking? Like, what the fuck is this? And she's like, no, this is actually who I am. And you just slowly see his confidence start to degrade, because there's only so many times you can be rebuffed before you're like, maybe I have come to some wrong conclusion.
Maybe I'm psychotic and like I'm the stalker creepy guy.
Oh, God. But then he's like, nope, I know this isn't you. And they have their little, like, their bodies get closer. And then he's like, he kisses her brow and like, whatever, and somewhat spicy.
Leans into it. Like, it's kind of hard to describe exactly what happens, because it's like he hugs her, leans into her, like presses up against her, and is just comforting her.
But she doesn't back away.
And she just lets it happen. Like, she simmers in it a little bit.
Honestly, though. She's like, I'm not going to leave, but like also. And then she does, though. Because I think he like maybe kisses her too much and she's like, ugh. Or someone interrupts them.
Well, I think they hear someone coming.
Oh, that's what it is.
And then Aaron like escapes. Like, he has to leave. And so he leaves first, and Kestrel is standing there, and she walks out, like, composes herself, and it's the Minister of Agriculture from Heron who is walking down the hall. He takes one look at Kestrel, and he's like, we need to fix this.
Oh my God, come with me.
And so he takes her to a mirror, and her gold engagement markings on her forehead are all smeared.
Yeah, a la Akatar. Everything is smudged.
Yeah, and so you made a good point, like, before we turned on, I don't know, about wondering if Sarah Moss had read the series before, because the similarities are so extreme in this.
Yeah, because she had a little moment with her love interest. You know, they shouldn't have. All of her stuff was smudged, and she has to fix it before everyone can see, and the Emperor knows what she was up to.
But this is a very, like, how do you replicate this? Like, it's gold dust. How do you do that? Like, they don't have like a Urban Decay eyeshadow palette in front of them.
Just in an inside pocket.
No.
And I think this scene, again, you don't realize how like sad it is until the very end. But her, without a thought, she crushes up the necklace that Jess gave her.
It's like this glinting amber glass.
Yeah, and she mixes it with some oil, touches up her thing, and he's like, Tenzin's like, oh, I guess it'll like kind of do.
If you don't look closely enough, it's fine.
Yeah, but it's just Kestrel not even thinking about it, just ripping off the necklace, crushing it up, and it's like she doesn't realize how, like, what she's doing to Jess.
But what an intelligent way to solve that problem.
Oh, 100%.
Like, I wouldn't be able to, like, crush a necklace up and, like, make my own gold powder. Like, no, I don't think that would have occurred to me.
Nope. And then even more clever, because, you know, she goes out in the ballroom, and then she finds Varix, and then she very loudly is like, God, I feel like I've been having headaches, and she kind of like rubs it to make it, you know,
smear.
Bruh.
You have to be such a smart writer. Like, you have to be intelligent in your own right. Like, you can be a good writer and not be the smartest person in the room, right? But this woman, this author, is fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
To come up with
foresight?
To come up with these problems, identify the solutions for the characters to solve themselves. Like, are you kidding me?
Bruh.
She teaches a creative writing class. I want to take it.
Yeah.
Or she did at some point. I don't know.
But it's also like, is this teachable? Because this feels like genius. Like,
yeah, this is like, this just exists in your brain.
Yeah.
Like, no,
I would not. This is way too impressive for me. I'm like, 87 levels below this.
Me too. Yeah, nice save, Kestrel.
But I think it also shows that she realizes that her facade that she's putting on that's not the right word, is it?
Her facade.
God damn it.
I think I only know that because I made the same mistake.
Her facade crumbles whenever Aaron's around, and she gets put into these like very compromising situations that could make her whole house of cards tumble. And so not that she distances herself from Aaron, but I think it's this cognitive disconnect for her where she's like, I know that this is risking my life, but like I can't stop. But also,
it's the same internal battle she had when she was a captive in Heron.
Yeah. Like, I need to do the right thing, but like, do I have to?
And you don't know where the story's going.
Mm-hmm.
You have no idea what's happening.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So safe this time, but not safe in some of the other times.
I think that's where we have to stop.
Yeah. It just gets worse.
Oh,
but you're going to enjoy it.
Like right now, Kestrel's out for a light jog, and she's like, I'm not running through the greatest neighborhood, but it's fine. It's okay. And then like next week, she's going to be running through a not so great neighborhood, and then there's going to be like a strange man across the street.
Bears.
Yeah. Bears. Or that.
Or it's like one of those treadmills where you're like, this is fine. And then it starts to like increase on its own. You're like, this is not fine.
No.
Oh, Kestrel.
Yeah.
You don't know what's coming up. From our shelf to yours.
We'll see you on the next page.
Hi, readers. If you'd like to help us pick our next book, send us a message on Instagram.
Or if you'd like to just listen, we post new episodes every Monday and Wednesday on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. Thanks for listening.
Bussin'.